Hey man, are you trying to set up your home studio, but you're not sure if you should go the cheap route or the more expensive route? Well, today we're diving deep into the world of home studio setups, comparing expensive vibes to the more budget friendly hustles. What's up, producers, engineers, and artists? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Wavy Wayne from WavyProAudio.com, your pro audio plug for all your studio needs. Now, when it comes to setting up a home studio, I'm in the buy once, cry once family, always have been, meaning that I'd rather go big now than to play it cheap and have to upgrade later. But I completely understand that you might just be a beginner or your current budget might not allow you to go so big right now. So I put together my picks of budget-friendly gear that gets amazing results, as well as some more pricey options in this battle of the expensive versus the budget home studio setups, all right? No matter which one you choose, all this stuff in this guide on this video will help you to choose professional gear and start producing amazing sounding tracks. All right, let's kick things off with the heartbeat of any studio, the computer. Now, you could drop some serious stacks on the latest Mac Studio. And for the expensive side of things, I'd go with an M2 Max Mac Studio with 64 gigabytes of memory and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. This setup alone will cost $2,600 plus taxes. Now, if you balling on a budget, fear not. The trusty Mac Mini holds it down at a fraction of the cost. My budget Mac Mini setup would be a M2 Mac Mini, 16 gigs of memory, 512 gigabytes of SSD storage for just $999 plus tax. Now, both of these options will be powerful, but you might be slightly limited on track count and processing if you go with the Mac Mini. Next up, let's talk about something else that's crucial to the studio, the audio interface. From the affordable Focusrite Scarlett to the top-tier RME Fireface UCX2, your sound quality is in good hands with either one of these. The RME Fireface is known, though, for its pristine sound quality, and it adds up to 40 channels of inputs and outputs, which give you plenty of flexibility as your studio needs grow. On the other hand, the 4th gen Scarlett 2i2 is a great option for home studio interface at a much more affordable price. The Scarlett is easy to use, and there have been more Scarletts sold worldwide than any other audio interface, which speaks to the durability and the popularity of its sound. While the Scarlett 2i2 does have less features, you probably don't need them if you are a beginner. It also costs a fraction of the RME Fireface UCX2 price, with the Scarlett being just $199 versus the $1,700 price of the RME Fireface UCX2. Now let's talk microphones. Whether you're dropping bars or hitting those high notes, the right microphone is key. You see what I did there? If you're on a budget, 2 mics that I highly recommend are the Sony C80, which a lot of people have tested and actually preferred over the coveted C800G, right? And the Laudon Audio LS208, which is one of my favorites in any budget. But especially if you record in a space that hasn't been acoustically treated very well, that's where the LS208 really shines. The Sony C80 is not the cheapest one, but it is one of the best bangs for your buck at just $499, while the Laudon Audio LS208 comes in just above that at $598. For my studio ballers, I got 2 mics that I recommend for y'all to start with. One is a secret weapon of mine that never gets enough credit. It's the Mojave MA300. Now, this is a tube condenser microphone. It's literally a powerhouse. It works really good on instruments, but on vocals, oh my God. The one I have is the OG version, but the new models are still just as amazing. The Mojave MA300 will run you about $1,400. Now, second on my list for the ballers is going to be the Warm Audio WA8000. This mic is a clone of that coveted Sony C800G, but it brings its own flavor to the party. It's big, it's warm, it's bright at the same time, and for $1,200, you will own one of the most iconic vocal microphone sounds. Now let's talk software. I know y'all been hearing about the battle of the dolls, but that really don't matter. Honestly, it's really about whatever you're comfortable with because there are so many choices, all right? The obvious is Pro Tools, but which one and which options for Pro Tools? In my opinion, for recording and mixing, there are 2 top dolls, Pro Tools and Studio One. These softwares provide the most flexibility and workflow options. If you're on a budget, go for the perpetual license of Pro Tools Artist for just $199, and you will own it for life. If the thought of dropping that amount of cash bothers you, then go for the subscription model at just $9.99 a month. All right. Studio One 6 artist also has a professional license for just $99. Now, something to be aware of with the artist versions is that they might be limited in track count and other features, but make sure that I would just check them out to make sure that the features fit what you need to do. If you have a little bit more to spend, I'd recommend going with a full version of any one of these softwares, like the Pro Tools Studio or Studio One 6 Professional. Pro Tools Studio Perpetual License will cost you $599, while the Studio One 6 Perpetual License will be $399. Every studio needs some good cans. Now, not those cans, some studio headphones. No matter the budget, for recording situations, I recommend an isolating, closed back, reference quality headphones, like the Wavy One studio headphones. These only cost $140 per pair, and they can be trusted for recording and mixing situations. But for the studio ballers who like an open back version of headphones for mixing, my go-to choice is the Sony MDR MV1. Now, you could spend hundreds more or thousands more on other headphones, but I don't necessarily think it'll be worth it. Any of these would be perfect, with the Sony MDR MV1 coming in at just $399. Depending on your studio setup and goals, monitor speakers may be optional for you. If you're just recording yourself and sending it off to be mixed, you might not need to invest in studio monitors. But if you're producing beats or mixing, then you will surely want to have a set of reference monitors that you can trust for your home studio setup. And you know I got some recommendations, don't you? Now, for the budget, I recommend you go with the Kali Audio LP6 V2. At just $398 per pair, that's literally a steal for the sound quality that you get for these monitors. For the ballers, though, besides for the Ex Machinas at $10,000 for the pair, you might also want to check out the Focal lineup of professional monitors, with one of my favorites being the Focal Twin 6 ST6 models at about $4,600 for the pair. Last but not least, let's talk about creating that perfect sonic environment. Whether you're balling or on a budget, you need to consider the environment in which you are recording. Recording or mixing in highly reflective spaces will cause major problems with your project and can be time-consuming or even impossible to fix. For studio acoustics, I highly recommend that you make your own acoustic panels. These DIY panels are not just cost-effective for those on a budget, but they are also better at sound absorption than a lot of the more expensive options on the market. If your primary focus is recording, then you might also want to just consider getting a reflection filter that goes around the microphone, or an isolation solution like the iconic Mars. Now that you have all the gear, let's get it set up. All right, y'all, so what you will see here in front of me is everything that you need to set up a really basic home studio. Come on in and just take a look at what we got. So we got our computer, right? So no matter which computer you choose, you make sure you need that. You're gonna definitely need an audio interface. Here, I have the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, 4th generation. We got our microphone, Sony C80. You're gonna love this mic if you choose it, guarantee it, right? And something that I didn't mention, but it's super important, is the cables, right? So obviously you're gonna need a microphone cable. If you go with like the kit that the Focusrite have, it'll already come with a cable, but you will need an XLR cable for your microphone. It looks like this on the ends, right? This is called an XLR. You're gonna need that. And if you decide to go with studio monitors, which was optional, then you will also need to make sure that you got the appropriate cables for that. So aside from the microphone, I also have my headphones here, right? We'll show up all about that. And I even have a pop filter. I'll give y'all some examples on how to properly set up the pop filter and exactly what it's used for. And another thing that we didn't mention that you're gonna need is a mic stand. You're gonna need somewhere to put your mic, all right? So while you're getting this all set up, the first thing you want to consider is, where in the heck am I going to put this studio? Like, you want to find a quiet place in your home that you can set up the studio. Try to be away from any like furnaces or anything that might cause noise. Make sure your batteries and your smoke detector are changed. Make sure that you're not too close to the AC or fans or loud windows, whatever. If it's outside traffic, you wanna find the quietest place in your home that you can set up the studio. The first thing that we're gonna do is make sure that our computer is set up. So in this case, I just got my laptop. No big deal here, right? You will set it up in a comfortable environment. If you're gonna be using monitor speakers, the placement of where you are in relationship to the wall is important. We'll talk about that in another video. Let's just focus on getting this stuff set up. So one of the first things that I'll set up is my audio interface. Now, most audio interfaces nowadays are completely bus powered. That means that simply using a USB cable that should be provided with it, you can connect this to the computer and it'll give you all of the power that you need. So right on the back here, you will see that I got my USB jack right here. So I'll just plug my cable right into there. And then this cable will go into my computer. USB-C. The next thing I want to do is actually start to set up my microphone. Now, even though we're going to be setting up the microphone, the last thing that I really want to do is put the microphone on the stand. So there's all the other things that we need to do before we get ready to set up the microphone. So I'm going to take my mic stand and start to prepare it. All right. It's always good to go quality when you are going with a mic stand. This is a nice K&M mic stand. I also recommend like Gator stands and stuff like that, right? All right, so I'm gonna loosen up my mic stand a little bit and just get some stuff going. A lot of microphones will have what we call a shock mount. Now this shock mount, this is separate from the actual microphone. The shock mount is to prevent vibrations from hitting the microphone and causing unwanted noise. So you might bump the mic stand, or as you walking or stepping in the studio, just making movements, vibrations from the floor can hit the stand. A shock mount will, you see that there's like little elastic parts in there, or they might be rubber depending on what you're in, little bands that basically suspends the mic with those bands. Now, with the mic being suspended in air like that, it's gonna prevent any vibrations that transfer from the mic stand to actually hit your mic. So we're gonna take the shock mount, and I got this mic. I don't know who, I thought I was recording the Shack or something. Let me go ahead and bring this down. So I'm gonna take my shock mount, and if you, I took the mic off of the shock mount. The reason being is that I don't wanna be sitting here twisting in the microphone and stuff. I don't wanna drop my microphone. Microphones are very sensitive and can be quite expensive, right? One thing that I often do, instead of even twisting the shock mount, is just simply loosen up this little piece on the mic stand itself. And when I put my shock mount on there, I can just hold the shock mount in place where I need it. And twist the mic stand in order to tighten that up. Once that's nice and tight, then I'll go ahead and then tighten my mic stand. Not over tighten, just tight enough as it needs to be. Right? And then you see we can lower that even more. Now you're probably thinking, yo, Wavy, now I'm sure you're ready to put the mic on. No, I'm not ready to put the mic on yet. The next thing we're gonna put on is the pop filter. The pop filter is gonna prevent those plosives. When we talk a lot of time, especially saying words that start with B and P, a lot of that air that comes out can cause unwanted vibrations in the microphone. So properly setting up, I should mention, your pop filter will help to save your recordings. So let's make sure that we get this set up properly. I'm just gonna attach it to my mic stand, and I'll show you how to, it just screws right onto the mic stand. I'll show y'all my rule of thumb. I actually call it a rule of fist. So I'm just gonna attach that right onto the mic stand, get it nice and snug. And that way I can position my mic stand, my pop filter as I need to. All right, now I'm still not quite ready to set up the actual microphone. There's one more thing I want to do, is get my mic cable in place, my XLR cable. So I'm going to now unwrap the cable. You See how that just fell out beautifully because I wrapped it up right when I put it away. All right, we're gonna take the cable and I'm just gonna start by draping it over the mic stand. Some people like to wrap it around and stuff like that. I don't feel like all that is necessary, all right? Unless you just need to get the cable out of your way. So I'm taking the cable, and what I wanna do is go ahead and plug that cable into my audio interface. Some of y'all might have the jack on the front of your audio interface, but in this case, it's on the rear. Let me also make sure that phantom power is not enabled. Now, the phantom power sends 48 volts of electricity to the microphone's capsule. In this case, I don't want it on while I'm actually connecting and disconnecting the microphone. So I'm gonna keep it off until I have the microphone plugged in. All right, I just plug it right in there, the XLR, right into that jack. And now that I got everything on my mic stand set up, I'm actually ready to put the mic on. So make sure that you get the mic facing the front way. In this case, you see most microphones will have a logo on the front. This microphone has a logo on the front and the back. What tells me that the front from the back though is, for one, they got the little polar pattern of the microphone here on the front, but on the back, there's more controls on the mic. So with those buttons and switches being on the back, I'm gonna determine that the front of the mic is the one that's the cleanest looking. Make sure you just kind of look at your owner's manual if you're not sure. And also when you do a sound test, you can try testing both if you absolutely are not sure, okay? And so now that I got that mic up on the shock mount, nice and secure, I'm gonna take my XLR cable, line it up, hear that snap, snap it in. When it comes to making sure that the pop filter is correct, you don't want to have the pop filter smack up against the microphone. That's not going to stop and create a good enough barrier for that air that's coming out your mouth, those plosives. So I always recommend using a fist between the microphone, the front of the mic, and the pop filter, right? So if you need to adjust where you've connected the pop filter to the mic stand, then do that. But make sure that you can get a fist distance between the mic and the pop filter. And then a lot of times as you are performing as the singer, then you want to keep at least another fist distance from the pop filter. So in my case, that's probably about 10 inches from my mouth to the microphone, which typically is going to be a good proximity to that microphone per most manufacturers' directions. So here I am about 10 to 12 inches away from the microphone, and that microphone is set up perfectly. I probably want to lift it a little higher though if I'm gonna be the one recording. All right, yeah, now I feel good about that mic. The next thing that we can do is go ahead and get our headphones set up. Now, these headphones, of course, I'm using the Wavy one in the Icy White super premium headphones. These are great for recording because the way that they're designed, right? They actually attenuate up to 36 dB of noise, right? That means that sound that you're listening to won't escape out of the headphones. And as you're monitoring or listening back, outside noise around you won't penetrate inside. It's gonna be really reduced passively, all right? So what I wanna do is connect these headphones for monitoring to my audio interface. And you'll see my headphone jack is right here, right? So I'm gonna make sure I got my volume down before I plug it in. Only issue is that, hey, I need a 1/4 inch. Now that's probably one of the hardest things to find in your studio, but luckily I keep all my 1/4 inches somewhere handy. And so, boom, I actually know where my 1/4 inches are. So I have a 1/4 inch adapter. Don't ever let anyone borrow that. So I got that. I'm gonna plug that in right into where my headphones go, and I can give that a little volume, okay? And now, all I need to do is power up my microphone. So I'm gonna hit the plus 48 volts, and you'll see, check, check, checkity, check, check, check. You see we getting output, we getting signal, check, 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 check. Our mic is plugged in and ready to go. Now, hopefully you've already went ahead and installed the software that you're gonna be using, whether it's Pro Tools, Studio One, FL, Logic, GarageBand, whatever it is that you choose to record in, but you got your gear set up and you ready to go. Another thing before I get out of here though is Making sure that you got some type of mic isolation if you need it. If you are not in a treated room, one idea may be to take like this Chaotica eyeball or Iconic Mars type of thing and put it right over the microphone. If you see this foam, it's a nice thick foam that'll shield the reflections from your room from getting into the microphone. Another alternative to that would be a reflection shield. Now this reflection shield does a similar thing, but instead of covering the entire microphone, you just put this on your mic stand and it'll stop those reflections from bouncing off the wall and entering into the microphone that way, all right? So there's several different options that you can choose in addition to what we've already discussed in making your own panels, all right? So now you got your studio set up. I wanna hear y'all make some hits. I'm Wavy Wayne from WavyProAudio.com, your pro audio plug. Hit me up for whatever you need, man. Be dope.